from the campus of Westfield State University. This is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Noble Hospital, a brand new name for a Westfield institution which is improving the health of our community every day with quality and compassion. Noble Hospital and Bay State Health, better together.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:02. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses. It is Wednesday, October 23rd. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and we are broadcasting live from Westfield Technical Academy, Studio 120. And behind the glass, behind the boards, is our producer, Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
So, Pete, are you ready for this day? It's going to go on forever.
Yeah,
it's going to be a long day for us
pretty
today. So we're starting here bright and early at 6 a.m. We both have to put in our regular work day, and then we have the second of the candidate forums being held at the Senior Center tonight. Starting at 6:30 is the actual forum, but the meet and greet, if you'd like to meet the candidates ahead of time, just informally, will start at about 6 o'clock. So tonight we are doing, we'll be interviewing, I won't be, but someone will be firing questions. Hope Tremblay from the Westfield News will be asking the questions of the candidates running for Ward 1, Ward 2, and Ward 3.
Now, are all those going to be at the stage at the same time, or we're doing it ward by ward?
No, it's ward by ward.
So like a half an hour for each
45
ward?
minutes.
Ah, okay.
So Ward 1 will be, it is a long night. I know, I hate to tell you that. Right, so Ward 1 will be from 6:30 to 7:15. And then Ward 2, 7:15 to 8, and then Ward 3. Ward 3, I don't think will take as long. Ward 3 is uncontested. But I think that they wanted to give Bridget Matthews-Kane present her platform and answer some questions. So that one won't take as long. I think that one will probably be less than a half an hour. So yeah, last night we had 3 of the 4 school committee members. Ramon Diaz could not be there last night. He was away on business. But we had Bo Sullivan and Diane Mayhew and Jeff Goslin answering questions. Kate Phelan from the chamber was asking the questions, and Hope was the timer. Today they will reverse those roles.
So 2 incumbents and a former school committee person.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. Let me say 2
Yeah.
incumbents.
Yep, because Jeff was a former school committee member.
Yes. Right. Exactly. Yep.
Okay, just making sure I had it right.
Yes, correct. So, very interesting. And those will be broadcast on Channel. How are we doing that, Pete? In terms of so if people missed it last night or they couldn't be there, but they want to see the forum.
I believe Kenny did last night, so he took that responsibility on. We're kind of swapping back and forth.
Right.
I think he's going to put title and credits on it and put it up on the YouTube channel, and then we'll schedule it over the weekend.
Okay.
We'll probably run them. I mean, at this point, the best place to run them is right after City Council meeting on Sunday.
Okay.
Just run what we got so far, and then next week is crazy.
Yeah, so and just so that I can exactly. So Pete, just so that I can enlighten folks. So of course, again, tonight's is at the Senior Center. You have to pay attention to location because they're not all at the Senior Center.
Correct. They can't all be housed at the Senior Center.
Correct. Yeah, we're doing what we would assume to be the smaller ones, and the larger ones that are going to need a greater seating capacity will be elsewhere. So tonight, as I said, will be wards 1, 2, and 3. So Ward 1 will be starting at 6:30. Ward 2 at 7:15, and Ward 3 at 8 o'clock. And then Monday, October 28th, will also be at the Senior Center. That will be Wards 4, 5, and 6. Those are all contested, folks.
Yeah.
So again, Ward 4 will be at 6:30, Ward 5 will be at 7:15, and Ward 6 will be at 8 o'clock. And then Wednesday, October 30th, will be the at-large counselors. That will be at Westfield Technical Academy.
The kids are getting excited about that. They're gonna help. They're gonna help do all the setup and everything, and they're gonna run cameras
that should
for
be great. That should be really great. So that'll be right here at the Academy starting at 6:30. And then the mayoral debate will be at Westfield State University in Dever Auditorium, which is in Parenzo Hall, on Tuesday, October 29th, from 6:30 to 7:30. And I would just, there was a little note in the paper, just, seating is limited. But the other thing is Western Avenue is completely torn up. So just give yourself plenty of time to get there, find a parking space, get into Dever,
You
find
can always come up
Parenzo.
early and go to the dining hall for dinner.
Well, I am going to go up early, and going to the dining hall is not a bad idea. So
I might finish setting up and walk across for dinner to the dining hall because it's probably the best option.
So are you doing that one yourself? Or you and Kenny both? Or?
No, we're tag teaming with Mark St. Jean at Westfield
Okay.
State University. It's going to be a multi-camera shoot, so we're kind of tag team with mobile units and stuff like that. So.
Okay. So, well, that sounds good. So, we'll maybe do a little dinner. But anyway, so that's next Tuesday. So all kinds of things happening. Of course, Election Day is November 5th. We are encouraging people to get out and vote. And, I remember when Patrick Berry used to be the owner and president of the Westfield News. But, Patrick used to say we tend to get a greater percentage of voters out when it's a presidential election.
Yeah.
And yet it's our local government that really affects us on a day-to-day basis.
Well, you're more affected by what's decided in City Hall.
Correct.
Than what's decided at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Correct. So this is your opportunity.
That's the way it is.
It is the way it is. So I think that WSKB and Channel 15, I think we're doing everything we can to get information out to you so that you have the opportunity to get to know these candidates. Ken and I have both been doing interviews. We've been interviewing here on WSKB. Kenny, how many did Kenny do yesterday?
3.
Okay, he did do 3.
But I was talking to a lawyer in Springfield yesterday. I was out with a friend, and he was also at the establishment, and we were just shooting the breeze at the bar. And I was telling him about what we do, and he goes, I wish we did that in Springfield because that's amazing.
Yeah, it is
Said,
amazing.
seriously,
I agree.
There's no way that you can be an uneducated voter. That you just. It doesn't take a lot of effort to go find those things.
No, it really doesn't. Turn on your television.
And he's like, or even go to YouTube.
Go to YouTube, yeah.
And he goes, that's what you guys are doing is an invaluable service to your community.
So this morning, Pete, that's a nice segue. This morning I will be interviewing Bill Oniski, who is the Ward 6, one of the candidates from Ward 6, John Beltrandi, who is one of the candidates from Ward 5, and Kristen Mello, who is an at-large candidate. So all running for city council. So we'll be starting those interviews at 6:30, and I'm really paying attention to the time today, which I don't always do, but I am today.
You're on the clock.
I'm on the clock. So speaking of being on the clock, let's get right to we have to do some famous birthdays and famous days, and then we have to do a few announcements, although I already got my forums in there, so I've already done that announcement. All right, October 23rd, famous birthdays. It is the birthday of the late John Heisman, football player, coach, sports writer. He was born October 23rd, 1869 in Cleveland, Ohio. He died in 1936 at the age of 66. He was nicknamed the pioneer of Southern football. John Heisman legalized the forward pass and originated the center snap. And the Heisman Trophy is named after him. So happy birthday to the late John Heisman. And speaking of Heisman Trophy winners, it is also the birthday of Doug Flutie.
That's an interesting one. I just saw that. I was like, whoa.
There you go. Football player born October 23rd, 1962 in Manchester, Maryland. He's 57 years old today. Doug Flutie rose to prominence during his college football career at Boston College, where he received the Heisman Trophy and the Davey O'Brien National Quarterback Award in 1984. His Hail Flutie touchdown pass in a game against Miami on November 23rd, 1984, dubbed The Pass, is considered among the greatest moments in college football and American sports history. He played in the Canadian Football League for a number of years, and then in 1998, he signed with the Buffalo Bills. There, he earned Pro Bowl and NFL Comeback Player of the Year honors. He played for the San Diego Chargers from 2001 to 2004 and finished his career as a member of the New England Patriots in 2005. He was named to the College Football Hall of Fame and Canada's Sports Hall of Fame in 2007. So happy 57th birthday to football player Doug Flutie. It is also the birthday of the late, great Johnny Carson, television host, born October 23rd, 1925 in Corning, Iowa. Thank you, Pete. I thought we'd get a little music on that one. He died in 2005 at the age of 79. Johnny Carson was one of the most popular late-night television hosts in American history, hosting The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson for 30 years between 1962 and 1992. In this role, he launched the careers of many contemporaries, including later late-night hosts David Letterman and Jay Leno, who debuted on Carson's show for the first time on March 2nd, 1977. That was a very young Jay Leno. There's a picture of him.
Comedian,
it's hysterical.
His chin
He
was
looks
bigger than his
so
head.
May 22nd, 1992 was Johnny Carson's final appearance as host of The Tonight Show. He died of respiratory failure as a result of complications from emphysema.
92. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
There's been books written about that. You know that, right? The whole Late Show Wars.
Oh, yes.
It's actually called Three Blind Mice.
Yes.
Is the book about that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Speaking of comedians, it is also the birthday of Weird Al Yankovic, singer, comedian, born October 23rd, 1959. In Downey, California. He is 60 years old, and Weird Al can now join the Westfield Senior Center. And I have to tell you, Pete, I would love to have Weird Al as a member of the Westfield Senior Center because he is hysterical. He's known for his humorous songs that make light of pop culture. Hits include Eat It, as opposed to Beat It, I Love Rocky Road, as opposed to I Love Rock and Roll, and Living with a Hernia. And I think we've played
This
all
is
of...
the best one. This is the best one, actually. Word Crimes.
This one, oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
Of nouns and prepositions, literacy's your mission, and that's why I think it's a good time to learn some grammar. Now did I stammer? Work on that grammar. You should know it.
Thank you, Pete. I had not heard that one.
Oh, yeah. Go look at the video. Is hilarious.
The videos are great, and that's part of it. You know, the thing about Weird Al, the songs and the lyrics are great, but the videos are hysterical.
I did a show when we were up at the old studio. It was like a day where I had a shift and there was nobody there.
Uh-huh.
I did the original and then the Weird Al parody.
Oh,
the whole show. It was
that
a
would be
2-hour show.
Oh, that would be a great show.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of them out there.
Yep.
So, yes, and I every once in a while when I can't find a song that matches my topic, I go to Weird Al because inevitably he's got one.
Yep.
And then finally on my list of birthdays today, Pete, is our most famous Dr. Gary Gorman. Today is Gary's birthday, WSKB resident chiropractor for the past 5 years. Happy birthday, Gary. He's probably just waking up. Born October 23rd, 1956 in Dover, New Jersey. He is 63 years old today. So just to give you a little background on Gary that you may or may not know, he played football and ran track at Randolph High School. He graduated from Palmer College of Chiropractic in 1981. And here's a little fun fact that I don't know has ever come out on this show in 5 years, but Gary treated both Jack Nicholson and Cher while he was practicing in Needham, Massachusetts, and they were filming The Witches of Eastwick in Boston.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I
Didn't know that one.
I didn't know if you ever knew that one. And Gary said it was really hysterical because they did house calls. He and Peter Gale, Dr. Gale, who was the chiropractor that Gary was working with and for. Peter was the owner, and Gary was an associate with Pete. And Jack Nicholson was staying at a very large house that he was renting in a very swanky suburb of Boston, and Cher was staying at one of the hotels in Cambridge. And so, they did house calls on both of those. And
Nice.
Interesting. He said Nicholson was just the way Nicholson is in the movies. And he said Cher was wonderful, really laid back, been around the block, no big deal. He said she was really great. So happy
Cool.
birthday, Dr. Gary Gorman, if you're awake at this time. Okay, and this is so appropriate that it's Gary's birthday, and it also happens to be October 23rd is National Boston Cream Pie Day because Gary is a Boston cream. He loves it, loves it, loves it. Donuts, Boston cream pie, which is actually really cake. It's not really pie. National Boston Cream Pie Day serves up a delicious dessert on October 23rd each year. Pie lovers, move along. Cake lovers, pull up a chair. Let's celebrate the cake with an identity crisis. Boston cream pie is a chocolate-frosted, custard-filled cake that is loved by millions. In 1856, at Boston's Parker House, Francois Enezine created this pudding and cake combination. The decadent cake comprises 2 layers of sponge cake filled with vanilla-flavored custard or cream. The cake is then topped with a chocolate glaze, such as a ganache, or sometimes powdered sugar and a cherry. In 1996, Massachusetts declared the Boston cream pie as their official dessert. So there you go. And we have one more national day, and this one also makes sense given the birthdays that we just talked about. October 23rd is National TV Talk Show Host Day. On October 23rd, get ready to go live before a studio audience on National TV Talk Show Host Day. Created to pay tribute to TV talk show hosts and appreciate their unique form of humor, entertaining stories, spontaneous wit, and timely political jokes. Talk shows come in a variety of platforms. Daytime talk shows provide a combination of current events, health updates, technology news, and entertainment. The later the hour, the more comedy the TV talk show host dishes out. From practical jokes, impersonations, and sketches to games, sidekicks, and audience participation. Guests usually star in an upcoming film or make headlines for a stunt, good deed, or unusual invention. Each day we watch our favorite talk shows and we laugh, cry, listen, and learn. It is these great hosts that make the shows ones that we want to watch. While they've expanded their formats, not much has changed. They still fill the night with humor and popular guests. The band plays along and the audience joins in the pranks too. National TV Talk Show Host Day was chosen to be celebrated on the king of late-night television's birthday, John William Johnny Carson. So there you have it.
There you go.
Happy National TV Talk Show Host Day. I think we need to get a national radio talk show host day. What do you think, Pete? We'll have
not a
to.
bad idea.
Yeah. Well, there probably is one. I just haven't. It just hasn't fallen on a Wednesday, but I'm going to look that one up. Okay. Few announcements before we get started here. I think I see cars pulling in, so hopefully one of them is my guest.
Somebody up against the window there. Jeez.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to drive in.
There you go. All right, a few announcements. At the Senior Center coming up on Thursday, November 7th, will be, believe it or not, Pete, the Senior Center tree lighting.
Already?
Yes, because we're doing this in what we've decided to do is that we're going to have the same Christmas tree that was designed and created by Marion Krause and Barbara Wojcik up on the stage again in the Great Room. That's our Veterans Christmas tree. And we are doing a Salute to Our Veterans luncheon on Thursday, November 7th at 11 a.m. The menu is Yankee pot roast, gravy, whipped potatoes, vegetable medley, apple crumble a la mode. The tickets are $3 and must be purchased in advance. Seating is limited. I will tell you that we probably have about 15 tickets left. That's it. Tickets have been on sale for a couple of weeks now. So the Do Re Mi Singers will be doing a musical performance, a salute to our veterans at 11 o'clock. We'll do the tree lighting. Julie Barnes, Director of Veterans Affairs for the city, will be doing the tree lighting. So that will be at 11. We'll have a Salute to Our Veterans concert by the Do Re Mi Singers and then our delicious lunch. And in conjunction with our tree lighting and a Salute to Our Veterans concert, we're also we're doing a Stockings for Soldiers drive. And so we have a bin out at the Senior Center. That effort is being coordinated by Shirley Mason, who is one of our regulars at the Senior Center. So Shirley and her husband do this. There's a list of the items that we're looking for the soldiers, the Stocking for Soldiers drive. So things like personal hygiene items, toothbrush, toothpaste, floss, hair combs and brushes, bathroom style flip-flops. We're looking for packets of wet wipes, tissues, batteries, pens, pencils, duct tape and electrical tape, lip balm, sunscreen, bug spray, white socks, winter hats. There's a whole list you can grab. We have copies available, so you can just grab a copy of the list, take that with you to the grocery store, the supermarket, or Ocean State or the dollar store. You can get these items at lots of different places. So we'll be collecting those items through November 12th, so for the next couple of weeks. And we do ask you to just fill our bin. We empty it every night, so if you see it empty, it's not because we haven't collected anything. We're collecting lots of things. We have boxes stored in the back. So we're doing that. I have already reminded you that November 5th is Election Day. We will continue to remind you of that. The Senior Center is the Ward 2 polling station, so there will be no lunch or coffee at the Senior Center on Election Day because we'll be using the Great Room as a polling station. We're also going to have an Election Day mini craft fair at the Senior Center, so that will be in the Fireside Lounge. I think we have 6 or 7 vendors, craft vendors that will be at the Senior Center, some from our Art Unlimited class, and we have some other regulars who do crafts on the side that you might not know about. So, stop in, treat yourself, a loved one or a friend to a beautiful handmade gift, and remember that the holidays, of course, are right around the corner. So we're going to sneak in that craft fair. Also, the day before Election Day, which will be Monday, November 4th, I want to shout out a special thanks to Monica Hanoush from the Shortstop Bar and Grill, because I was at the Shortstop several weeks ago, and one of the specials that night was Monica's butternut squash bisque, which I have to tell you was to die for. Gary said it was like eating an apple, but like a warm pumpkin pie, and they put whipped cream on the bisque. It was so good. So I texted. A couple days later, I was telling some of the staff about it, and while I'm telling them, I got the brilliant idea that I would ask Monica if she would make it for the seniors. So I texted Nabil, and he conferred with Monica, and she is going to make it for us. So nice. Monday, November 4th, that will be on the menu. So I want to thank Monica for doing that. So that'll be the day before the election. We just figured, nice warm soup in November. It's going to be starting to get chilly. So thanks so much for doing that. And in the coming weeks, we're not going to cover it right now because we're going to go into a break in just a minute. But we will be doing our WSKB Thanksgiving food drive, Pete.
Yes,
that will be coming up. I conferred with Ralph Figge, and Ralph and Sue Figge are the ones who coordinate that effort. So we will have our WSKB food box out at the Senior Center by Monday morning. And so we have a list for items that we're looking for that food drive as well. So we have lots of things going on at the Senior Center.
I know I've already confirmed my 6 to 8 hosts for that day. Bobby G and company are coming in that morning because they don't have a show on Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay, very good. Yeah, and we send around the list though, because I like to do that one as well.
Yep.
And we usually come.
I'll do a sign up for it.
Yeah, that's what we usually do. We usually do a sign up, so please do. So that'll be a lot of fun. And the one other thing, and then we're going to go to break. We are looking for some specific types of medical equipment for our medical equipment loan closet at the Senior Center. So if you know of someone, one of the items that's becoming very popular are those knee scooters for people who have had foot surgery or whatever. We have one, and it is, we can't keep it at the seniors. As soon as, normally the day it comes back, somebody's on the waiting list to take it out.
Yep.
So if anybody has one and they want to donate that, and it's in good shape, it has to be in excellent shape, we would take it. We're also looking for rollator walkers, which are the kinds with the seats on them. Those are a popular item.
Yep.
And pretty much any kind of wheelchair, either a transfer wheelchair, a regular wheelchair, in all sizes. Wide, extra wide, small, extra small, all regular, all sizes. So if you have any item like that, give us a call at the Senior Center. All right, it is 6:25. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses. So we're going to take a short break. My first guest will be candidate Bill Oniski from Ward 6. So what I did, Pete, was I chose songs having to do with my candidates.
Okay.
So for Bill, because I had to text Ralph last night and say, Ralph, is the airport in Ward 6 or Ward 1? He said it's in Ward 6. So Bill has an airport song, Those Magnificent Men and Their Flying Machines. So we're going to play that song and let Bill get settled in so we can start asking him some questions in here.
magnificent men in their flying machine. They go up to the up, they go down to the down. They enchant all the ladies and steal all the scene with their up to the up, and then down to the down. Up, down, flying around, looping the loop and defying the ground. They're all rightfully keen, those magnificent men in their flying machines. They can fly upside down with their feet in the air. They don't think of danger, they really don't care. Newton would think he had made a mistake to see those young men and the chances they take. Those magnificent men in their flying machines, they go up to the up, they go down to the down. They enchant all the ladies and steal all the scenes with their up to the up, and their down to the down. Up, down, flying around, looping the loop and defying the ground. They're all frightfully keen, those magnificent men in their flying machine. Those magnificent men in their flying machine, they go up to the up, they go down to the down. Those magnificent men, those magnificent men, those magnificent men in their flying machine.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Comcast and Xfinity.com, offering Xfinity TV, Internet, home phone, and home security services. Information on all that Xfinity has to offer in the Westfield area is available online at Xfinity.com. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Noble Hospital, a brand new name for a Westfield institution which is improving the health of our community every day with quality and compassion. Noble Hospital and Bay State Health, better together.
It's Tuesday morning from 6 till 8. Wow, it's Tuesday with Bob Plass.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Is my mic there? It is, P.
Sorry
I was going
about
to
that.
say, yep, I was going to say, I'm not hearing anything in my headphones. It is 6:29. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses. So, Pete, I see we have a different background over there.
Yes, we're trying to use a similar background for all the interviews.
Oh, for all the interviews. Yeah, we want to make them very similar and all the same.
Yes.
So, okay, so we are starting with my round today of interviews with our candidates. And first up is candidate for City Council Ward 6, Bill Oniski. Welcome, Bill.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. You're a familiar face to us, obviously currently serving. So let me just, kind of just explain the how Kenny and I are doing this. So Ken Stomsky's doing the interviews on Tuesday mornings. I'm doing them on Wednesday mornings. But just so everyone understands, we're asking the exact same questions. Okay, so I don't want anybody to feel like, well, wait a minute, he asked this one and I wanted that. Same questions, okay? Not necessarily the same order, but all the same questions.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and this is really an opportunity for our listeners to get to know you a little bit better, and a little bit about what you stand for, et cetera. So I'm going to start with, I think Ken and I are both starting with the same question, which is, why do you want to serve on the city council? That's kind of a general question, but what do you think?
Sure. Well, first, thank you for the opportunity, and it's been an honor and a privilege to work for the residents of Ward 6 in Westfield for 2 terms. I want to be on the city council. I know you've heard it a million times, to try to help the residents, to try to help the people. I'm in customer service now. This is very similar to what I do for a job at work. And in fact, many times I'll refer to inadvertently to residents as customers, and I want to be able to help them navigate through areas that they might not know. if something happens, there's a sinkhole or branches, in the road, who to call. So I want to be that person. So thankfully, we've got a good group of people working for the city. I can make the call, and they can help. So I'm just the conduit for the residents to get the help through the city.
You know what, Bill? And this is my mistake, but why don't we go back for just a minute, because you mentioned what you do. Tell us a little bit about yourself, which is where I really should have started this interview, just so that the listeners know kind of who you are. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? What do you do for a living?
Sure.
I think that would be helpful before we get back to that why you want to serve question.
All right. Well, I grew up in Southwick, Massachusetts, graduated from Southwick High, so I know a lot of people from Southwick still. I went on to graduate from Westfield State College with a degree in criminal justice and a minor in political science. Later on in life, I ended up getting my master's in business administration through UMass while I was working. I'm married to my wife, Gina, 3 beautiful girls, Andrea, Karen, Christina.
Now, how old are your girls?
They are...
Roughly.
No, I'll tell you exactly.
Okay.
They're 20...
I didn't want to put you on the
Oh,
spot.
that's all right. 20. Don't ask my wife's age.
Okay.
They're 24, 22, and 22.
Okay.
So, they grew up in Westfield. I've lived in Westfield since 1991.
Okay.
Moved to Westfield from Southwick, and I've been there ever since.
Yep. So 28 years. I can tell you that because my daughter was born in 1991 and she's 28 years old. So,
Well,
right. So you've been a resident. So the girls have gone, your girls have, this is all they've known. I mean, in terms of.
Right.
Yeah.
And my wife, it's all she's known also.
Okay.
She grew up in Westfield
Okay.
on Prospect Hill
Okay.
area, and her parents still live there. I work at Comark Communications. It's had several names. It's in Southwick. I've been there for 30 years.
Oh, wow. And now what do you do there?
I'm the VP of Customer Service and Logistics. So I'm responsible for customer service for products that we have in the field already. I'm responsible for contracts that new contracts that come in, facilitating them, making sure that everything, the budget is correct, everything matches the budget, and we get equipment out and fielded.
Okay.
And we make television transmitters.
Okay.
So it's a product that's, obviously electronic.
Yeah.
And it resides at the bottom of a TV tower. So if you see the Channel 22 tower,
Yes.
there's a piece of transmission line that
There you go.
runs down and into a building, and we supply the equipment that's in that building that actually transmits over the air.
Well, it's interesting, Bill, as you're kind of talking about your background, there's a lot of overlap to get into that question about why you want to serve on the city council, in terms of customer service and, sort of budget review and, things like that. So now this is making a lot of sense to me. So hopefully to our listeners as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been doing it, started out with program management there and kind of, went up to where I'm at now. And I've worked with customers all my life in the private sector.
Okay.
And it's really not a stretch to move over to the public sector.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still doing both.
Customer's a customer, right?
A customer is a customer.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you need to treat them respectfully, and you need to help them. And you need to tell them if you can't help them.
Yes.
So it all plays in. It all plays in.
Okay. All right, let's move on. How do you, here specifically, so how do you increase commercial and industrial development in the city in order to reduce the residential tax burden when generally residents do not want, kind of quote, anything in their backyard? How do you sort of handle that?
It's a balancing act. This
Okay.
whole job is a balancing act.
Okay.
And you need to understand, the residents' point of view on anything coming near them. We've got zoning that's set up to do just what you had asked. I was on the planning board for 13 years prior to being on city council.
Ah, okay.
So, there's certain zones where a company can come in by right. So
Okay.
the residents really don't have much say on a by right business moving in.
Okay.
So by ordinance, they can move in. There's just a site plan review. However, there are special permits, and those are the ones you hear more about. The trucking company that recently came in, for instance, that had to go through a special permit. Most of the times it's through the planning board, but there are some instances where for some reason it goes through city council.
Okay.
Some of those were moved out of city council and into planning board because they have a more non-biased look. They're not voted in.
The planning board.
The planning
yes.
board.
Okay.
They're
yes.
appointed, so
Yes.
they're going to take a look at things, really by the books.
Right. Okay.
Where the city council, has other influences, other stakeholders.
Okay. Yeah. Understood.
So, it is possible, and through the zoning laws, that helps.
Mm-hmm.
We've also just recently got a company in Myers, downtown Westfield.
Okay.
It's a good example of a company that can come in and really have a major impact on downtown with little effect, no effect really to neighbors,
Right.
except that they're bringing 30 people. And I went to their open house yesterday.
Okay.
It's the old Piccolo's building,
Okay. Yep.
and they employ about 30 people.
And what do they do, Bill?
They're a technological company. They actually are creating software for the broadcast industry, so there's somewhat of a little bit of a crossover. At Comark,
Right,
we've
right,
got
right.
a lot of the same customers.
Okay.
Different products, but a lot of the same customers.
Okay.
So, there's an example of 30 people come in. They renovated the building completely. It looks
Yep.
beautiful. It looks
Nice
like
and
a
clean.
high-tech company. Nice and clean. I mean, it was really very
What's not to
impressive.
love, right?
And those people are going to be shopping downtown.
Yeah.
They're going to be coming downtown. They moved in from Northampton. Already, one of the people who work there moved to Westfield.
Okay.
Work there.
All right.
The airport is also another untapped area where we can work on to get businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there hasn't been much talk about the airport, except for the song, and I didn't even hear what that one was. But the airport has got great potential,
Okay.
and really that's funded mainly through federal and state grants.
Yeah.
The city puts in money, but 5% state and 90% federal.
Mm-hmm.
So there's great potential at the airport. And-
Now, Bill, are you a liaison to the airport? I don't wanna-
Yeah.
Yes, you are. That's what I thought. I wouldn't have asked the question if I didn't think so, but I thought so. Okay. So.
yeah, so I go to all the
Yeah.
airport meetings.
Okay. Yeah.
And, it's a good group, and they've got potential. Right now, they're setting up to try to get more businesses in there.
Okay.
And it's really a good place for it.
Because it has nothing to do with anybody's backyard, right?
Right, it's out of the way. I
Yeah.
mean, they've brought in a life flight. I'm not sure of the exact name, but the helicopters.
Okay.
So I mean, every time you hear one of those going up, they're saving lives, and they're right here at Westfield's airport, which is
Interesting.
impressive.
Wow, that is impressive. Mm-hmm. Okay, so some ideas for not in my backyard kind of thoughts. All right, let's talk about charter schools. What's your position on charter schools coming into the city, particularly in the Route Road area? And it's Route Road, that's Ward 6.
That's one.
Oh, that's one. Okay.
Yeah,
See,
that's
that's where I
Counselor
know.
Babinski's,
That's where we'll get to that one at some point, but
Sure.
Okay, so what do you think about charter schools? What are
Well,
your
I mean,
thoughts?
I can't speak to the location. I know that's a busy road, and Councilor Babinski has been working
Okay.
those issues. But in general, I think that charter schools take away from the big picture of the greater good for the Westfield public school students. There's money that's should be going to the Westfield schools, but if someone goes to a charter school, that money goes away. So it's not only the per pupil cost that they're losing, that the city's losing,
Okay.
but I mean, this includes debts that the city has to pay for school buildings. That goes away, that little portion of money that's paying debts, the infrastructure.
Yeah.
So it's not so easy that you can, you say you've got 30 students going to a charter school.
Yes.
So let's cut a teacher.
Right.
That would be
Understood.
teaching
Yes,
those
yes.
30
Okay.
students. There's a lot more to it than that. So I'm not for the charter schools.
Okay.
I'm for the public schools. I think that public schools do a great job. My children all went through the public schools. They're doing great. And there are some very, very good people, some administrators, teachers that really care in the Westfield public schools. So by no means am I implying that charter schools are better. I don't think they are. I think
Yeah.
Westfield school system has got some fantastic people. I mean, I've been through, many years with my daughters, and when I see the teacher or guidance counselors, I used to call them, helping.
Yep. Adjustment counselors, I
Adjustment
think they're called
counselors.
now. Yep.
It's amazing how much the teachers really care for the
Yeah.
students. It's very, very impressive.
Okay. So thank you for answering that question. All right. How about this one? How do you increase money available for infrastructure, yet keep the schools, which we were just talking about, the police and the fire departments properly funded without overtaxing the residents?
That's what we've been trying to do forever. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the city council's job. That's the mayor's job. That's the school department's job. As I said earlier, it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
There are people who want roads done and nothing else. Education. There are so many facets of this. And you really just need to weigh these individually. We've got so much money coming in, and you have to just split that pot to what you think is right at the time. So I understand the roads and infrastructure are very important. Do you sacrifice education for that? I don't think so. I don't think people want to drive through Westfield on great roads and not stop and live here and go to school here.
Good point.
And businesses.
Yeah.
So, again, that sort of goes back as to, can we bring more businesses into Westfield?
Yep.
Either that, or you need to cut services. There's X number of dollars in the pot. What services are residents comfortable in cutting? And you have to weigh that on a year-to-year basis, because the pendulum seems to swing.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, and there is no easy answer. And anyone who comes in here and tells you there is an easy answer,
Well, it's interesting when you were talking about the charter schools before, and all the ramifications of not just cutting one teacher position, if that's where, and you use the phrase that it's more complicated than that. And I in my head I was thinking, and it typically is. It's typically more complicated than, oh, I've got the answer.
if it was easy, anyone would be doing it.
Exactly. There would be lots of people running for city council, right? All right. So let's talk. We've talked a little bit about schools. What issues do you have, if any, with making cuts to the school budget?
Generally, I wouldn't touch the school budget. I haven't. I voted for it every time. The school committee works with the mayor, and they do that. They go through and cut the budget. Just because it comes to the city council at the last minute doesn't mean we have to cut the money. That's already been gone through. I trust the school committee. I trust the mayor to come up with a number that works. I don't think there's been any extravagant spending or budgeting on the school side. I'm leaving it alone. Unless I see something that's blatant, I'm going to trust the school committee members. It's their job. A lot of times city councilors sort of go off and like to tell other people how to do their job. I can't do that at work in the private sector. I rely on the people that work with me to make good decisions. I'm not the smartest guy in the room all the time. I work with them and trust their decisions.
Okay. All right. So do we have excess spending? And if you believe that we do, how do you begin to control that?
That's another good question. The excess spending has to be found. I mean, there's ways, and the city council can't necessarily find it all the time. It's too detailed. If the department heads go through their budget, and they will cut out excessive spending, if there is any. I mean, they're on shoestring budgets a lot of times. And for instance, the DPW has come up with ways of doing things that are different.
Yep.
So, they might do roads themselves, for instance, when they used to contract out for roads. So now we have the equipment and people to pave small roads. You can't do, 10 miles of it, but it's things like that. It's the good ideas that the department heads come up with that really cut the excess spending. I mean, it's their job.
Yeah.
It's their job
Yes,
to do
that's
that.
correct.
I mean, if a city councilor or myself see something that's obvious, we'll talk to the department heads. I have no problem talking with department heads all the time. I do it all the time as a my daily or weekly
Yep.
life
Yep.
as a city councilor.
Yep.
I don't need a resolution to talk to a department head. I'll call up, get an answer, and move on.
Yep. Shoot an email. I've
Shoot it-
I've
yeah.
gotten a few of those, but
I do a lot of emails because I do a lot of my work in
yeah.
the
Well, I appreciate emails because so do I. It's evenings and weekends that I'm
You
over
should
there.
be.
So
I should
yeah. Okay. All right. So I've saved. This is actually the last of the formal questions. So we'll have some time to chit chat after this. But so I've kind of saved the elephant in the room for last. So what is your stance on the public water supply? Do you favor the carbon filtration approach to water treatment, or do you want to see an alternate source for water used instead?
I think what we're doing right now is good. I think what the city has done, and it took multiple votes to get here, is safe.
Okay.
The water department, the DPW, they are full of people who are very well schooled in this, along with the contractors and engineers that we hired. People in the DPW have got masters in civil engineering, in environmental engineering, nuclear engineering, and they've graduated from some very fine schools. So they do have the background. They also have the public job that they're working at. This is their job. All right. It's not that they just went to school and learned it and can talk about it. They do this every day. They look at the numbers. They look at the percentages of contaminants. They do this, and it's proven to work. It's proven to work. They've tested this at the midpoint, non-detect, no PFAS.
Yep.
And it's working. I'm not against looking for an alternate source. I mean, you should always have a plan B.
Okay.
So this could be working fine, and it is.
Okay.
But I still believe that there should be a plan B in place for just about anything.
Yep.
Water,
Yep.
anything that is that important. And it really does affect the residents of Ward 6 and Ward 1, the north side.
How does Ward 6 factor into this bill?
Well, Ward 6 gets the water.
Okay.
Number one. Also, the wells are in Ward
6. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the wells are located between the bottom of Springdale
Okay.
and Paper Mill
Okay.
Road, and also up off of Holyoke Road. And then there's two between the rear of East Mountain Country Club and the airport.
Okay.
So all the wells are in Ward 6. Of course,
Aha,
the
okay.
two behind East Mountain are the ones nearest to Barnes Airport.
Right.
With the firefighting foam.
Okay. And you mentioned before the process that, this has already gone through council. So can you just kind of, as a city councilor who sat through all those meetings, what was the process? We have a little bit of time, so just kind of refresh our memory in terms of how has the council been involved up to this point?
Well, I mean, the council really is the one funding
Right.
the
Okay.
money. So
okay.
the council votes on the money. So if there is no money, there is no carbon filtration. There is no process. There was a bond that was actually two bonds that were taken and voted on
Okay.
to clean the water system, as well as there were a few other items in that. There was a water tank in Ward 6 that was failing. That's part of the bond
Okay.
to get replaced.
Okay.
And there was some other infrastructure that needed to be replaced also. So the money that the city had bonded, I mean, we're suing essentially
Yes.
to get that back. So it's not a case where we won't get it back. Hopefully we will, and it'll take years. I mean, 1.3 million was already given back to us for no real apparent reason from the Department of Defense
Okay.
a few weeks ago.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily imply, legally, it doesn't imply that they're responsible for it, but
Right.
if they're giving us money, I mean, if it
Gee.
looks like a duck.
Yeah, right. Not out of the goodness of their hearts necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I'm very confident in the vote. And for me, it was an easy vote.
Okay.
We had to clean the water, and we had to clean the water now.
Okay. All right. So that was part of the process. Okay. Well, we have about 5 minutes left. So this is really your opportunity to, kind of say whatever you would like to say. You can go off in a direction, whatever. What would you like to talk about?
5 minutes, huh?
5 minutes.
Oh, gosh. I
Go for it.
never talked for 5 minutes.
Well, really? Pete and I could fill 5 minutes in about, right off the top of my head. But
Sure.
go ahead.
Well, I'm here. I want to help the city. This would be my third term, knock on wood.
I was going to ask you that, Bill. You've served 2 terms so far. Is that right? So 4 years.
4 years.
So you've been on the
Almost
council
4
for 4
years,
years.
come
Okay.
January.
Okay. All right.
And I enjoy it. I enjoy helping residents. Like I said before, it's very similar to what I do at work. I get calls. I try to solve problems. I mean, that's what I do every day. And I do the same thing with the city council, too. Residents will call me because a tree's down.
Okay.
I'll try to take care of it. I'll try to help them. And I think that's very important. That's a little bit the difference between a ward councilor and an at-large councilor.
Right.
We all vote.
Yep.
We all have the same vote, but the ward councilor seems to take on more of the resident issues, which I'm happy to do.
And let me ask you, Bill, because you mentioned before that you and I can attest to this, that you are one of the city councilors that tends to reach out to the department heads a little bit more. What are some of the ways or some of the issues that you've felt compelled to reach out to some of the department heads on?
Sure. I mean, very recently there was a street in my ward that had a sinkhole.
Okay.
They said they've been in contact with the DPW, or they weren't really sure who they
Yeah.
were in contact
Yes.
with
Yes.
a lot
Yes.
of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I called, called Director Billups,
Yep.
and asked if he can look into it. He did. It got fixed.
Yep.
Trees were blocking a sight line on Sandy Hill Road.
Okay.
Got that fixed. We talked about the airport a little bit.
Yeah.
I would help residents go through the FAA program where they've got
yes.
either houses being purchased
Yes.
or noise mitigation.
Yes.
A lot of the residents there weren't sure exactly what to do, and it is very confusing because the FAA changed the rules so many times.
Right. And it's your house. It's a big deal.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So I would help them, direct them, go to meetings,
Kind of walk through that process
walk
with
through
them.
the process. So
Yes.
and I think this forum's very important. It touches upon a lot of things, but I would still expect and hope that residents would do more than just listen to me or any candidate talk. I mean,
Yep.
go out and Google the candidates. See not just what they're saying, but what they're all about.
What have they done?
What have they done? What
Yeah.
are their past histories?
Yep.
Go on Google on a reliable internet
Yeah.
source, find something. So
Yeah.
it's not just listening to me now or the articles in the paper or the forum at the senior center.
Yep.
I think the residents should do their own checking
Yeah.
on all of this too. And I'm happy to take phone calls. My phone number's out there. My email address is out there. And I really want to continue to help the Westfield residents for the next 2 years. I think I'm good at it. You can ask residents who I've
Yeah,
helped,
yeah.
get opinions. We're trying to go through Devon Manor and get those streets in that area
Okay.
publicly accepted.
Okay.
Which is another, I won't go off on that issue, but there's many streets in Westfield that are still private
Right.
streets.
Right. Yeah. I was floored when I found that out.
Yeah, so
Yep.
I want to continue to help the residents of Ward 6 and all of Westfield, and I'm happy to do it. I'm privileged to serve the residents.
Okay. Well, I can certainly attest, again, being a department head, I have gotten several emails from you with, just with questions. And of course, in my head, I'm thinking, well, he's not asking me just to ask me because somebody went to him, wanting that information. And in some cases, I kind of work through you, and in other cases I say, have them contact me directly, let them know that, have them tell me. I contacted my ward counselor, and he suggested that I contact you just so I have a frame of reference. But thank you, because I appreciate that. As a
Well,
department
whatever
head.
works.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works me getting
Absolutely.
back to a resident.
Yep.
Most of the times it works better with you going direct.
Yeah.
I set them up, you knock them down.
There you go. All right. My guest this first half hour has been Bill Oniski. Bill is running. He's a candidate for City Council Ward 6. And Bill, first of all, I want to just thank you for your service for the years that you've served. And
welcome.
best of luck in the election. And, we'll see what happens.
Thank you very much.
All
I
righty.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
for coming in. We're going to take a short break. Is my next guest here yet, Pete? Or yes, no? No, yes?
I haven't seen him.
We haven't seen him. Okay. All right. Well, we'll take a short break. We'll thank our underwriters, and we will be back.
If I had a hammer, I'd a hammer in the morning, I'd a hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd a hammer out danger, I'd a hammer out a warning, I'd a hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Ooh, if I had a bell, brothers and my sisters all over this land. Ooh, if I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, I'd sing it in the evening, all over this land. I'd sing out danger, I'd sing out warning, I'd sing out love between my brothers and my sisters all over this land. Ooh, well, I got a hammer and I got a bell and I got a song to sing all over this land. It's a hammer of justice, it's a bell of freedom, it's a song about love between the brothers and the sisters all over this land. It's a hammer of justice, it's a bell of freedom, it's a song about love between the brothers and the sisters all over this land.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Comcast and Xfinity.com, offering Xfinity TV, Internet, home phone, and home security services. Information on all that Xfinity has to offer in the Westfield area is available online at Xfinity.com.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Comcast and Xfinity.com, offering Xfinity TV, Internet, home phone, and home security services. Information on all that Xfinity has to offer in the Westfield area is available online at Xfinity.com.
It's Tuesday morning from 6 till 8. Wow, it's Tuesday with Bob Plass.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7 o'clock. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses. I'm going to let my guest settle in because he still has 5 minutes. I'm playing Ken Stomsky. Ken was very adamant about giving exactly the same time to all of the candidates.
Yes.
So my candidates
Same
all
time,
have,
same questions.
Yes, exactly. Same time, same question. So we have a few minutes before I will introduce John Beltrandi. So before we do that, of course, I always have announcements, Pete, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we've done the candidate forum schedule. We'll do that again a couple of times. But also, we have a plea from the Salvation Army. They need bell ringers this holiday season. And it's fun, it's easy, and it helps the Salvation Army to provide food, heating, and utility assistance to local struggling families. And I can tell you that we have definitely, the Council on Aging has definitely relied on the Salvation Army to help us with some of our most challenging cases, especially during the winter months when we have people who have run out of money for heating and so forth. So if you can help them out, if you can just give 2 hours and join us this Christmas season to ring bells and help change lives, you can call them at 562-2910. And I think I have this posted at the Senior Center on the TAC board in the vestibule, but if I don't, I will make sure that I get it up there today because they're kind of desperate for help. And again, that number is 562-2910. And, I have to tell you that I end up with people at the Senior Center pretty much on a regular basis asking, can I volunteer and how can I help out? And there are only so many volunteer slots that we have at the center, and we certainly appreciate all of our volunteers. But you know what? There are a lot of places throughout the city that really could use some volunteer help. And Bo Sullivan was at the school committee forum last night and was encouraging people to volunteer in the public schools if you have that desire. Yeah, he was talking about the number of volunteers that they have and the fact that a lot of those teachers are really relying on those volunteers. And we have, of course, it was in the middle of the forum, so I couldn't shout this out to Bo, but we have a number of folks through the tax work-off program that are working in the public schools. So that's a win-win all the way around.
Absolutely.
All right, so we talked about, let's see, I got a couple minutes, and I had a couple more other things that I wanted to talk about. I did mention the medical equipment that we're looking for. Historical Perspectives Discussion Group at the Senior Center meets on the first Wednesday of the month from 10 to 11:30 a.m. Their next meeting will be on November 6th. And by the way, folks, the new Voice of Experience newsletter, the November edition, will be out this Saturday as an insert into the Westfield News. It will be at the Senior Center on Monday morning and will hit the streets because of my wonderful team of volunteers who deliver the newsletters all over the city. And that would be Barbara Coleman and Donna Schaefer and others. So that will hit the streets on Monday afternoon. So lots going on in November and the upcoming holiday season. So we even have some December events that are scheduled, and the tickets will go on sale in November. So you'll want to hear all about that. And lastly, we have some one-year anniversaries at the Senior Center. Just about a year ago, we did major hiring. We did we kind of reorganized our staff because I had a number of staff members who were leaving, some of my part-timers leaving to take full-time positions elsewhere. So we've got a whole crew. We had 5 new people. So George Svakios, our kitchen assistant, has been with us for a year. Alex Hibbert, our building maintenance craftsman. Thank you to the City Council for giving me Alex because he has really made our lives a lot easier. He's been there for a year. Mary Kohut, our clerk, has been there for 1 year. Joyce Peregrine, who took over for Fran Aguda with the companion program, has been there just about a year. And then Joanne Ortegas, our outreach coordinator, will celebrate her 1 year anniversary in early December. So they are wonderful additions to my staff. So I'm proud of all of them, thankful for all of them. All right, it is 7:04. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses. My candidate interview this half hour is the City Council candidate for Ward 5, John Beltrandi. Now, John, just so you know, because I don't think you were probably like racing in when we were playing your song, but each candidate had a song that I chose specifically for the candidate. Yours was If I Had a Hammer, because of your construction, because of what you do for a living. Tried to be a little creative here. So what we're going to do is we have 25 minutes, and we have, as I mentioned to Bill Oniski, all the candidates that Ken Stomsky and I are interviewing. We're asking all the same questions. So no different questions for any one candidate. But we're going to start. I'm going to ask you to pull your mic closer to you, and you're going to have to speak right into it. And before I get to the questions, John, why don't you just tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? What do you do for a living? Let's start there.
Well, I was born and raised in Agawam.
Okay.
Lived there for 22 years. moved to Westfield. I was educated in the Agawam schools.
Okay.
Did not go to college. I chose to go in the Air National Guard out
Okay.
of high school.
All
and
right.
ultimately spent 11 years, a portion of them at the 104th.
Right here in Westfield,
Yes,
Barnes
and,
Airport.
I'm a veteran as well.
Okay.
And spent some time at the Otis Air Force Base.
Wow.
The balance of my time in the Air National Guard. I've been married 41 years.
Well,
Well, actually,
congratulations.
it'll be 41 years the day before the election.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well,
To my,
congratulations. That's a
My high school sweetheart.
there you go. You know, in this day and age, that says something.
Yeah, and I have 3 children.
Okay.
2 boys and a girl, and I have 5 beautiful granddaughters. Mm-hmm. Couldn't get a grandson.
Okay. Well,
It wasn't in the mix.
It-
but
that's
fine.
okay.
And girls are good.
They are.
Yeah, my children all work in the business with me.
Okay.
I'm an employer in Westfield. I have been for 35 years.
Yeah. So tell us about the business, John.
Well, I got a lot of different things going on.
Okay.
I've been a real estate broker, real estate agent for just about 40 years.
All right.
And I've been a construction supervisor, superintendent, building houses for about, I'd say, 35, 36 years.
Okay.
My oldest son works in the business with me. He's an excavating contractor. He does, he digs cellar holes, does sewer lines. We do a tremendous amount of work in the city.
Okay.
So we're around all the neighborhoods all the time, so we see a lot of people. And my second child, another boy, is in the real estate business with me. He's also a home builder on his own.
Okay.
He does very well. And my daughter has her hands full because she's got 3 girls.
Okay.
The youngest just turned 2, so you know what that's all about.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And they're all,
Wait till they all get to high school.
yeah.
She's really gonna have her hands full.
But yeah, she does a great job with the kids. They all do, and she works in the business. She does a lot of the book work for me. She kind of organizes my chaotic life because like I didn't need anything else to do. I decided city council.
I
would be a
know,
good
right?
idea.
I was thinking of that as you were talking, but
Yeah, but that's okay. I signed up for it. I enjoy it. My mother. I was city council president last year during the turmoil with the water. We'll talk about that, I think.
yes,
little bit
that'll
later.
that'll come at the end.
I became city council president, and I looked at it and I said, boy, this is going to be great. And it was. I had a good time. It was a tremendous amount of work because of all the things that
Yeah.
went on during that year.
Yeah.
The water, we lost Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah,
We
right.
also lost a member of the G&E board. So these are all things we had to deal with. And the amount of hours that I spent in 2018, as a city councilor,
Yeah.
were amazing. In fact, my mother, who you and I have talked about a few times, she used to be the director of the Agawam Housing Authority.
Yes.
She'd call me up once in a while and she'd say, "How's that part-time job working out for
I
you?"
know. It is. It's a full time. It's a whole other full time
And
job.
it is. And,
Yeah.
and traditionally it isn't that, extreme, but we just had a lot of things going on. So I got to spend a lot of time with good quality people that work for the city.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, the mayor's office, we were all embroiled in this water issue as well as a number of other
Sure.
issues. But it gave me a unique perspective as to how people act and interact in the building and, how they get things done. And, I'm sure we'll touch on a little bit of that as we go along, too. But, you got to remember that people that work for the city of Westfield, they have the best interests of the city in mind. And when I sat around the table with a number of them to work on a lot of these issues, I was really impressed with the amount of knowledge that they had and the amount of work that they put into these things. And a lot of them don't live here. A lot of people live outside the city that work for the city.
Yeah.
But just because they don't live here doesn't mean they don't care about the city.
True.
So
And I am one of those people that do not live in the city. Although my husband would say I, for all practical purposes, do live in the city because that's how
I'd
much
have
time
to-
I spend there.
I have to agree with that because I know how much work you put in over there. And just to touch on that for 1 second, the candidates luncheon that you
Yes,
on
yeah.
the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to be able to go there, and your facility is amazing. I was part of that process.
Yes.
When I was in previously.
Yes.
Getting that done, and you deserved that. What you had before was substandard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
At best.
Yeah.
You do a great job over there. Your staff does a great job. For anybody who doesn't visit the senior center, you're missing out on something because they do a wonderful job. They actually serve meals they're restaurant quality meals.
I know.
They really are. And for $3, I
I know. It's pretty amazing.
Anybody that has an opportunity to go there, take the opportunity to go there.
Absolutely. Come on down. All right, John. So you kind of touched on this, but if you want to expand on this at all, why do you want to serve on the city council? We talked about how many hours of work it is.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of work, but the thing is, I think I'm passionate about it. And when I first decided to do it, my reason for doing it years ago was that I wasn't happy with the way things were going.
Okay.
And so I decided to run, and I was fortunate enough to get in. And after I got in, I realized that there's a lot behind the scenes. It's not as easy.
Yeah.
I'm one of these people that said, I'm going to get elected in my first 6 weeks, I'm going to solve all the problems.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows what they're doing.
Right.
I was fortunate enough to be seated next to Peter Miller. And after I made a couple of blunders early on in my career as a city councilor, Peter told me that it'd probably be a better idea if I used my ears more and my mouth less. And so I figured out what was going on.
There you go.
I'll never forget that, and I tell
Yeah.
that story quite a bit. And Peter's a very intelligent guy, and he did a lot for the city in his capacity as a city councilor.
Sure.
And now, in his capacity as the city planning department, he does a wonderful job. But there's a lot to be said for that. And as you well know, if you watch any of the meetings, I live them. People ask me if I watch them on TV. I said, no, I get to live them live.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but there's a lot of opinions, in the room. I don't agree with a lot of them, and as city council president, it was my job to afford everybody the opportunity to express their opinion and respect their opinion, and I do that. I still do that today. I may disagree 100% with something that somebody's saying, but I like to think that at the end of the conversation, we can still shake hands, be friends, and try and move the city forward.
Yes.
Because ultimately, the goal of a city councilor should be to move the city forward.
Right.
Okay? And that's what you need to do. And if you look in Washington, okay, we can't get anything done. Okay, nothing, because it's just a complete gridlock. You've got two sides that are unwilling to do anything together. I don't like to have that same type of thing happening on the city council. And sometimes we do.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but it happens. And so I think that if everybody tries to take the time to sit back and say, what's our goal at the end of this? We need to get the city forward. Okay? Do the business of the people and provide them with services that they're paying taxes.
Yeah.
That they are entitled to these services for what they pay.
All right, let's get into some of that tax stuff. So here's another question for you. How do you increase commercial and industrial development in the city in order to reduce the residential tax burden when generally residents do not want, kind of quote, anything in their backyard?
And I'm in a unique position because I'm a developer as well. I've developed several neighborhoods in the city of Westfield. Not just in a business community, but people that they don't want anything in their backyard. When people buy a piece of property, that everything is not in my backyard. I don't want houses there. I don't want business there. I don't want anything there. Well, unfortunately for everybody that's listening, that has that opinion, that's not the way it works. Okay, we have zoning bylaws. We have zoning in effect for business, for residential. You need to have a mix of these things in order to have a tax base. Our south side of town is predominantly residential. Okay, you have the Route 20 area there.
Yep.
Where we have some vacant stores, which I'm not happy about. But the north side is the development side of the city at this point.
Yep.
It was never laid out to handle the amount of traffic and volume of trucks and that we have. We talk about this all the time on the city council. No more trucks on the north side. That's not a reality. Okay, trucks are going to come through the north side because you have the turnpike, you have access to 91 when you go up through Holyoke. So the reality is the development's going to be there. What you need to do, and what I think we do a pretty good job with, is you have a planning department and a planning board that looks at all of the proposals that come in, and they try to make it, the impact on the neighborhoods is as minimal as possible.
Okay.
Okay, but you have to have business in the city in order to have that tax, that break for the taxpayer.
Yeah.
And the problem that we have a lot of times is that, nobody wants anything to go in. But you have to be reasonable.
Yes.
You have to look at these projects and you have to say, okay, what's the benefit to the city? Sometimes we offer, a TIF, which is a tax incentive for some to come in. We have, and again, on the north side, we have, huge, the Home Depot, the Lowe's, the CNS. Now we have Old Dominion coming in. They're huge employers, and a lot of money comes through the city because of that. The businesses on the north side, they complain about the traffic. I own property on the north side. I know. Okay?
Yeah.
And my business was on Southampton Road, and I have another on Southampton Road now. So I know all about the traffic out there, and I know all about what the impact is. But I also see every car and truck that comes through there represents $1. Okay, that some way or another they're putting money into the city, whether they're stopping at a convenience store, whether they're putting dollars into our economy here, and we need to be cognizant of that because we don't get any money from this casino. We're not a host city. Okay, we did vote as a community to allow marijuana sales, so we're going to benefit from that strongly, which a lot of our surrounding communities didn't do, and now they're trying to get back to it because they see the dollar value in that. So, we just have to be sensible about what we do.
All right. Okay, good enough. All right, let's switch over to schools. So what is your position on charter schools coming into the city, particularly in the Route Road area?
Location isn't really that big of a deal for me. The charter schools take away from, our pot of money because it costs us money federally, state, and locally to have kids go to the charter schools. I believe they serve a purpose to a certain extent. Some of them may, offer some program for kids that are, have needs that aren't being addressed fully by the public school. And it's tough. We have a pot of money, but it's not a huge pot of money. Yeah. It's the lion's share of our budget. But, Stefan and his crew over at the schools, they do a wonderful job. We have a school committee. I'm familiar with many of them, on a personal basis as well, as they're professional. They do a good job. Again, getting back to something I said before, all of these people care very, very much about the city of Westfield, okay? They care about each and every kid that comes through the doors of these schools. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it, okay? You can't, I could find something else to do every other Thursday night, okay? And whenever my committee meetings tend to find, believe me, I could find plenty of things to do. I choose to do this as a service, okay, because I think it's important. The school committee people do the same thing.
Yes.
And when you get into their budget situation and you get into the money that they have, the school committee puts an intense amount of effort into that budget. Okay, there's cuts that go on within there. We know over the years when I was a kid, we didn't worry about pencils, we didn't worry about crayons, we didn't worry about paper. It's gotten to that point now, where those are critical things. We're bare bones. And, teachers in the school system do a wonderful job educating these kids. All three of my children went through Westfield schools. They all graduated from Westfield. They're bright kids. They're not bright because of me. They're bright because of the education they got. They do a good job. And as far as like I say, with the money for the schools, I depend on the school people and the school committee to do that, and I trust their judgment. Okay.
All right, I'm going to fold into, because that falls right into one of the other questions on my list, which is what issues do you have, if any, to making cuts to the school budget? So since you're already heading in that direction, let's talk about that.
I'm not in a position to cut the school budget.
Okay.
And I'll just go right back to what it is. The schools are working with a pot of money, and it's not enough. Okay, we need to get the state, to contribute more money to our schools. That we're working now to get a new school built. Okay? That's a very, very tough process. Okay, and we're fortunate enough to be in a selection of probably 100 different communities that want schools. We are one of them that's going to be afforded the opportunity to do a study and to build a new elementary school. But we need the state to step in and give us a little bit more money. I mean, we send a lot of money down Route 90, okay? Everybody complains about that. Western Mass sends all their money to Boston. We don't get anything back. We have a governor now who, seems to pay a little bit more attention to the western part of the state than most do. But we need to encourage our people in, like John Velas and Don Humison, in their positions to get us more money to work with these schools, because we have an obligation to educate our children, and it's important to do that. So any way we can, we should. And when we start talking about recklessly cutting the school budget, among other budgets, you need to step back and take a look at what the impact of that will be. And it's not good.
Okay.
Because, the kids are our future. We've been hearing that our whole lives. So if you don't invest in your future, where are you going?
Yeah. All right. Good enough. Okay. How do you increase money available, John, for infrastructure, yet keep the schools, police, and fire departments properly funded without overtaxing the residents?
Well, it's a balance, and again, I'm in a position, kind of a unique position in my employment and what I do, that I interact with the DPW on a pretty continual basis. In fact, sometimes on a daily basis.
Okay.
I spend a lot of time speaking to the DPW people in the office. I interact with the people that actually work in the field, the water department people, sewer department, roads. Again, their budgets are very, very thin. There's not much there. They could use more help, okay? But more help comes with more taxes, okay? So what they've done, and I think and this is something that I talked about many years ago, and it's come to fruition to a certain extent, is that we're doing a lot of things in-house now that we weren't doing before.
Right.
Because we have to, okay? We have to do that in order to, to use the dollars that we have more effectively. We have equipment now to do work in the roads, to do drainage work, to do paving work.
Yep.
We have some staff. They definitely need more. If anybody ever wants to get an eye opening, take a ride down to the DPW yard in the morning and see what you have for staff there. We don't have enough staff to operate the equipment that we have.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's really telling. When you go there and you look and you say, hey, we bought an excavator, we bought a dump truck, we bought another trailer, we bought this, we bought that, but we don't have anybody to drive the dump truck.
Yeah.
Okay? Or we don't have anybody to operate the excavator, or we have one guy and he's out on disability.
Right.
So
you're in that business. So let me just clarify for listeners. So it's not like I could jump in and just operate an excavator, right? I mean,
there's several.
You need licenses, or
You need a hoisting license.
Yes,
to operate an excavator. You need a Class A or Class B license to drive these dump trucks if they're over a certain weight.
Okay.
So there's licenses involved, and it's hard when. In the private sector, I'm going to give you a quick example. In the private sector, if I have a guy who's got a CDL license and has a hoisting license, typically I'm going to have to pay him somewhere between $23 and $25 an hour, okay, to get into any machine. Now we're advertising positions for the city of Westfield at $17 an hour. There's an $8 disconnect there.
Yep.
Okay. So it's hard to get people to do those jobs because right now the private sector is booming. Okay?
Exactly.
There's jobs everywhere. I mean,
Yep.
I could go today. I'm 61 years old. I can go get a job anywhere with the licenses that I have, even at my age, because there's such an opportunity for people to do that.
Yeah, such a
So
demand.
it's very hard for the DPW and the departments there to get people at $17 an hour.
Yeah. All right. We had about 8 minutes left.
That was quick.
Well, we have a couple of questions left that are going to take 8 minutes. So this one is, do we have excess spending? And if you believe that we do, how do you begin to control it?
Do I think we have excess spending? I'm sure you could find it anywhere if you look hard enough. But there isn't really that much. If you take a look at the line items in the budgets, wherever you look, there really isn't anything there. I think if you go back to what we just talked about with the DPW, if you become more creative with how you do things, another department head, and I speak to these people on a pretty regular basis, Tammy Teft, who's our purchasing agent, okay, she's a wonderful person. She does a great job. She finds more ways to save money.
I know. She's amazing.
She's very creative. And, this is the kind of energy that goes into her job. And, she does this. And what she goes out and she says, okay, if we're going to buy a fire truck, let's get together with all these other communities that are doing it, and let's get into a pool, and we'll buy this fire truck, and it'll save us $100,000. Okay?
Yeah.
And these type of things are where you're going to find your savings. There's nowhere where you're going to go in and say, oh, there's $50,000 laying in this budget here that we could just take out, okay?
Yeah.
Or let's cut, this out of the airport, or let's cut this out of the. That's not reality, okay? We pay taxes. Nobody likes to pay taxes, okay? Nobody. And I can tell you, I'm 61 years old, and every time I hear somebody say, we're going to cut your taxes, I ask them the same question. I'm 61 years old. My taxes have never gone down. Okay? It's not true.
But you're going to make that happen, huh?
Right. And if you can, by all means, I'll stand right with you, and let's
Have at it.
Let's have at it, all right? But truth in these things is that
Yeah.
it doesn't happen, okay? You need to provide services for people, and they cost money.
Yeah.
And the cost of living goes up.
Yep. All right. I've saved the best for last, I guess. What's your stance on the public water supply? Do you favor the carbon filtration approach to water treatment, or do you want to see an alternate source for water used instead?
I spent the better part of my year as city council president trying to get the vote together to approve the carbon filtration.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to the beginning of this conversation when we started on the water. When you wake up in the morning, there's two things that you need. You need clean air and you need clean water.
Okay.
That's a very simple thing. If you don't have those two things, you don't live. So my decision was very, very simple on the water. I depended on the science and the experts, people that are licensed, people that do this for a living, people that deal with water on a continual daily basis. Their expertise was that this was the best solution to clean the water in wells 7 and 8 and 1 and 2. And so that's what I voted for. I stand behind it. Now, let's be honest about this. 20 years from now, if somebody came to me and said that wasn't the best because now there's this, I'd say, okay, then if we had this 20 years ago, this is what we would do. This, to me, was the best solution to this problem, okay? A lot of discussion about other water systems that we may be able to get into. I respect everybody's opinion, okay? And your next guest coming here, okay, very bright person, okay? She's done a tremendous amount of work. She's very knowledgeable. We don't agree on everything, but again, I like to think that we can be friendly and have a conversation.
Yep.
But I think that buying water from another source may not be it, but maybe looking into tapping into some other way for us to do it moving forward. I think we always need to look to that, to say, how do we do this moving forward? Because what happens if the aquifer has another issue? We're blessed with a tremendous amount of water, and nobody's the water on the south side of town. I was the guy that owned the property that the city took ultimately to put the water filtration for the EDB contamination 25 years ago.
Okay.
So I'm well aware of what the water situation is.
So you've been dealing with this water thing for a long time.
I have.
Yeah, you have. All right, John, you've got about 2 minutes. Anything that you would like to say to the listeners and the viewers?
Well, I'd love to serve as city councilor for another term. I've been there for several already. I think that I, do a good job. People reach out to me for different issues. I address them. I like to be honest with people. I tell them, if I don't know something, I'll get you the answer. I don't tell you something that I don't know. I just think that's a bad practice. To serve Ward 5 is going to be a little bit of a more challenging. Very demanding area. The population in Ward 5 is huge. And, there's we've done a lot of road work in Ward 5. We've done a lot of sewer work in Ward 5.
Yep.
Those are going to continue. You need somebody that's able to maneuver in Ward 5 and able to get things done. And I'm that guy. I know I am. And, I'm confident of that. So I think that, in the grand scheme of things, I would like to do this for as long as people would like me to do it.
Okay.
And I think that, again, I'm passionate about it. And, my wife would say, why do you do this? And I said, well, I enjoy it.
Yeah. Believe it or not. You'll love it. All right. Candidate for City Council Ward 5, John Beltrandi, thank you for spending this 25 minutes with me this morning. Are you wide awake now?
I am.
Everybody leaves here and they're wide awake.
It went by fast.
It does, right? Well, you had a lot to say. You've done a lot for the city. So, again, as I said to Bill Oniski, thank you for the service that you've done thus far, and best of luck in the election, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you, and thank you for your service to our senior citizens. It's believe me, it's a tremendous job that you do there.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that support.
Thank you.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
She don't look like a mother, nothing like a father. How else can you explain it? Must be something in the water. Pigtails, overalls, freckles on her face, skinny as a toothpick turned sideways. Something happened to her when she turned 16, from a little Dixie chicken to a Mississippi queen. Hey, hey. Fishing with a bamboo cane every night, skinny dipping in the ponds and string. If you were 11, like a beat of some sweet. You could always find her when the nighttime fell, cranking up a bucket from that old stone well, drinking from her hand, singing at the moon. She don't look like a mother, nothing like a father. How else can you explain it? Must be something in the water. I'll never forget that look in her eyes the night she snuck me down to the riverside. She wrapped herself around me like a honeysuckle vine. Her lips, they had a taste of wild cherry wine. You could always find her when the nighttime fell, cranking up a bucket from that old stone well, drinking from her hand, singing at the moon. She don't look like a mother, nothing like a father. Folks round here say it's something in the water. Two straight months without any rain. We never ever saw that girl again. But I still got a picture burning in my head, dancing in a downpour, soaking wet. You can always find her when the nighttime fell, cranking up a bucket from that old stone well, drinking from her hand, singing at the moon. She don't look like a mother, nothing like a father. How else can you explain it? Must be something in the water. Don't look like a mother, nothing like a father. Folks round here say it's something in the water. There must be something in the water now. Hey, hey. Something in the water. Way down in the water now. Something in the water.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
It's Tuesday morning from 6 till 8. Wow, it's Tuesday with Bob Plass.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:34. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. It is Wednesday, October 23rd. I did just get a text, Pete, from Councilor Ralph Figge, who asked me if I wanted to start plugging the WSKB Thanksgiving food drive. I told him that was already done first hour, but we're going to plug it again because we will have our box out at the Senior Center on Monday. So the items that we're going to be looking for include canned goods such as corn, peas, carrots, cranberry sauce, and gravy. Dry goods such as instant potatoes, cake mix, dinner rolls, and stuffing. Personal hygiene products of all types. So if you so desire, and I'll have that list available. So if you want to grab the list for when you go grocery shopping or when you go to Walmart or the dollar store or Ocean State. And, this is what I always tell the seniors, Pete. If everybody brings in one or two items, we have a lot of people. Yeah, that's a lot. We have hundreds of people using the Senior Center.
And the school department's already posted on their Facebook page.
Yes. So, Ralph, not to worry. Okay, my final guest for this week's round of candidate interviews is Kristen Mello. So, Kristen, you might have noticed each candidate had a song that I chose specifically for them. Kristen's was Jeffrey Steele singing Something's in the Water. So we're going to talk about that, but we have a lot of other things that we're going to talk about first before we get to that. And just so that you know, as the listeners now know, because I've said this 3 times, this is my 3rd time, but we're going to say it again anyway. Each of the candidates, Ken Stomsky and I are doing all the interviews. Kenny's doing the interviews on Tuesday, and I'm doing the Wednesday mornings. We're asking the candidates all the same questions. They're exactly the same questions. So everyone has equal time. So we'll have 25 minutes. And so we're going to start with what Ken and I do typically, which is to just give us a little bit of information about who you are. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? What do you do for a living? So kind of just start to introduce yourself. Let's start there.
Sure. Well, I'm Kristen Mello. I was born in Noble Hospital, raised in Westfield, went to Highland Elementary and then Smith Ave and then Westfield Middle and Westfield High. I went to UMass for undergraduate. I spent a semester at the University of New England first and then switched to UMass and went to the University of Delaware for grad school. Left Delaware with my master's, went straight into industry doing non-invasive glucose monitoring, where you shine a light through someone's skin to try and determine what their blood sugar is instead of taking blood.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Never even heard of that process.
Really fascinating. Well, it's still in progress. People are trying. There were people trying to look in the ear, people trying to look in the webbing between the fingers. There's a lot of mixed signal there, so it's a very, very difficult process. And so there's a lot of interesting, very kind of geeky math that goes there, but that's kind of my thing. And then we found out in the course of the research that there were a bunch of diabetics that were going to be put through a lot of terrible things to continue it going for people to make their money. And so that was not so good for me. And I came back home to figure things out and started cooking for people and doing food service and things that, sort of filled the soul and not so much made me question science and ethics and things like that. And then when my brother needed some help with his kids, I began to help raise his family. And when I was here and found out about the water, I thought, oh, well, I better look into that. And being that data analysis was sort of my thing, the first thing I did when I found out was go after the data. And now here we are.
Okay. All right. So that gives us a little bit of background on you. So the next question, which kind of dovetails into that, is so why do you want to serve on the city council?
Well, this actually was, the residents' idea. So after the ATSDR meeting in July, people kept asking me if I would please run for office, and they wanted both mayor and city council. And I thought, I don't know. I've never run for a political office. This was never a goal of mine to be in politics. But after the way the ATSDR meeting ended, people...
Okay, I'm just going to stop you there.
The Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry.
Thank you. We throw a lot of acronyms around here, and I have to, for our listeners and our viewers, explain what the heck that means, because I know they're out there going, Tina, what is that?
What is that?
I don't even know myself.
Right.
So, okay.
So it's a sister agency to the EPA.
Okay.
Created by an act of Congress, and where the EPA investigates environmental contamination, the ATSDR investigates the effects of environmental contamination, the public health arm of that same investigative
Okay,
goal.
so now I'm going to pull you back to why you're running for city council.
So they came here, to talk to us about the water and to talk about the blood testing. And when the residents started speaking at the mic, some of the city officials left.
Okay.
And it left a bad feeling for people. And so the next couple days, people were very much on me. And so someone pulled papers and they got all the signatures required. And I thought, well, if you guys really want this, then I'll turn it in and I'll do my best. And if people want me to be on the council and speak for them from the other side of the podium, from the table, then I will do that.
Okay, so that's the reason you're running for city council.
I'm running.
All right, so we're going to start with question number 1, which is, how do you increase commercial and industrial development in the city in order to reduce the residential tax burden when generally residents kind of, quote, do not want anything in my backyard? So how do you do that? How do you increase commercial and industrial development in order to reduce the tax burden?
Well, in my opinion, right, I think that we could start increasing commercial development in areas that people actually need. So there is a lot of transportation development here, and I understand that we're at a crossroads sort of geographically, and that's why it works for Westfield. But we also have a serious environmental burden here. and an opportunity, because there is so much of this environmental burden everywhere else, to start to bring the resources that we need here and that other people need in other communities and bring them here and develop these labs and this research here and develop these protocols that we need and other communities need here.
Okay. So when you say here
in
just to get back to the question,
Sure.
But how you do that without putting it in somebody's backyard here?
Well, by redeveloping the places that are already in people's backyards, that are already, abandoned or left vacant or underdeveloped, that have already been, stripped, where these are not virgin woods and these are not old growth.
Okay. Yeah. No, I got you.
So
I'm
we
with you.
take these underdeveloped or brownfield areas and start to put in the scientific and environmental infrastructure that we really need. And because we didn't, cause this contamination ourselves, we can help to get resources from elsewhere in order to do that.
Okay. All right. How about this one? What is your position on charter schools coming into the city, particularly in the Root Road area?
Well, the problem with the Root Road area is that up until a couple weeks ago, it was presumed that that area was PFAS free. So to put a charter school there, my biggest problem with it is that that area is on septic. And so to take and add more human waste to an area that we might need to develop for water is a big problem for me. Aside from that, as a person that did spend some time teaching in public schools, and in a charter school in Springfield, I have seen the way that resources sort of get siphoned.
Okay.
And it bothers me. I appreciate that specialized education, particularly in science or in other vocational areas, that there are ways that we can get kids into a streamlined area of education that is to their benefit. But pulling resources away from all of the public schools in order to do that is a real problem. So I would hope that we can find a way to bring these specialized things, actually like this building does, but bring these specialized things into our public schools and keep the resources for everyone.
Okay. All right. So just so that I'm clear, so not such a fan of charter schools?
I'm not such a fan.
Okay. All right. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm just trying to.
I appreciate that in some districts it might be the only way to move forward.
Okay.
But I really am a big believer in public schools.
Okay.
I hope to keep our resources there.
Fair enough. Okay, so how do we increase money, or how do you increase money available for infrastructure, yet keep the schools, police, and fire departments properly funded without overtaxing the residents?
That's about growth. When you look at those numbers, because I'm a numbers girl, right? So when Councillor Flaherty talks about that levy ceiling and all this other stuff, I demanded all the research and went back and looked at all these numbers. And the separation, if you're not going to raise the residential tax rate and you're not going to, again, go after the business tax rate, the way that we need to do that is to increase the growth, to increase the revenue coming into the city. And there are places where we constantly leave money on the table. So before going back to the residents or the businesses that are already here and saying, give us more, I would like to generate more. I would like to turn around and say, okay, well, we have all these, these environmental codes, for example, that we're not enforcing. Environmental codes that come with fees, that come with penalties. So rather than us spending our money in order to clean up the environmental damage that are caused by this code violation, why are we not enforcing them? So when we're leaving money on the table from other places, I have a problem making cuts. Right. When we're spending money in places it doesn't need to be spent, I have a problem making cuts. So if we can find a way to keep money from being spent where it doesn't need to be, and we can find a way to collect the income that we should be collecting, I don't think it's going to be a choice between teachers and police.
Okay, so I'm going to go back because you've mentioned this now 2 or 3 times. So spending money in places where it doesn't need to be spent, can you be more specific about that?
Cross street. Going after things that don't need to be gone after. The redevelopment of the schools, once you hit a wall that's literally, state law, the rethinking, I think, would have been a much safer way to save millions. When working about these filters, getting more information about what has happened to the communities that are further down the road would be saving us millions. There's a conference right now at UMass where the people from Pease just said their GACs were failing. Wish somebody had said it. We did. There are places there. And not only that, but we could have saved money on the interest on that bond. That bond didn't have to come out of regular municipal bonding. There are other sources of money for this. I don't understand why we're not making sort of wiser choices about where we move things.
Okay, fair enough. All right, what issues do you have, if any, to making cuts to the school budget?
I think we do a lot with the budget that we have. I think a lot of the services that we had when I was in the Westfield schools are gone. I was a stringed instrument player. You can't find one now. We used to have a community orchestra. We don't have that anymore. I'm sad about what's happened to the schools and the school budget. I appreciate, that band director is fantastic, and don't get me wrong. I think that there are a lot of things moving forward, and that's great, but I think that there are a lot of things that are left out too, and I'm not a big fan of cutting the school budget. I'm a big fan of spending more wisely.
Okay, so how do you do that?
Smaller choices about interest rates on millions of dollars, smaller choices about, whether or not we're collecting when we should be, whether or not we are, when you look at purchasing, what things can you bundle, there are tiny little ways. At the last budget meeting, I stopped Mr. Ricks to talk to him about resources that should be available for our special education department because of our PFAS exposure. Right? There are known links between PFAS and the effects that it has on children. So we have a responsibility to take care of those effects and to make sure that our students get the best possible education they can. But we didn't put that in the water. We shouldn't have to be paying that out of our pockets. We need resources, and we need to advocate for them really stringently, strongly.
Okay. All right. I think you've already answered this, but I'm going to let you expand on it a little bit. Do we have excess spending? And if you believe that we do, how do you begin to control it?
I would like a really long conversation with our auditor. That I think would, I think finding out where it goes, looking at the projections that we have, the money that gets allocated, and then where it gets spent and how much it looks at. Because I think what happens is that, so the money gets approved and things go to departments and, the projects move along, and then there's this change order, and then there's that change order, and I don't know if anybody's keeping a final tally and going back at the end like you do with a business and say, okay, well, here's this sheet and here's this sheet, and let's take a look at where the numbers are at, where the money is actually going. And I don't think that, at least as a resident, I never knew, and the more that I look into it, I still don't know where all this money is actually going. And if we actually need these extra funds to get the projects done, then let's make our estimates better. And if we don't, then let's pull this back and say, let's have some absolute rule about when we're not spending in a bond. Where is that money going, and how does it pay down this or go to that, or what buckets of money need to be refilled when we have extra? I think we can make some smart choices without going back and increasing taxes.
Okay. And do you think that that's not being done right now?
I think it's not being done enough. I think there are attempts, but for example, I was sitting at a city meeting just a couple weeks ago where someone came in and asked for a blank check. And I understand that there are some things we don't know right away, but I'm not a big fan of blank checks.
Okay. Well, I would suggest that you do have that meeting with the auditing department, because I can tell you as a department head, we have to count for every penny. And when I say penny, I mean down to the penny.
Right,
so,
on the spreadsheets, right.
No. As we're spending and when we're submitting our bills and our invoices, that's all checked by the auditing department. So
I mean for the very large and
same we built a senior center. There was bond money left over. That was all. Everything had to be accounted for. So I would encourage you to do exactly what you said, because I think you may be surprised at what you find.
I will say that my very first water commission meeting, there was an error to the tune of about $800,000.
Okay.
So and the city council and the water commission just had to eat it. Like there was no choice about it. The money had already been spent. And at the last water commission meeting I was at, there was another, we need to make a change, but I have no idea how much it's going to cost kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so what happens on the back end of that, we as the residents are not always, like, you have to dig in order to find that out. I'm sure that someone is looking at it.
Oh, yeah.
But we, the people who are paying in, we don't get to see that.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Fair
I
enough.
think it would be helpful if it were more transparent for everybody.
Okay. All right. So, Kristen, here's your question. What is your stance on the public water supply? Do you favor the carbon filtration approach to water treatment, or do you want to see an alternate source of water used instead?
Well,
You got about 5 minutes.
I will show you. Okay, so
on this one.
I have Legos. I have 2 cups of Legos.
All right.
One of them has no blue or red Legos in it.
Okay.
Okay. But if every Lego I research has detrimental effects on the body, and every Lego I look at stays in the body longer than most chemicals are bioaccumulative, and every Lego I look at is an endocrine disruptor, which means it changes things in developing fetuses, it changes things when people are in puberty, it changes things when people go into menopause, right? Every time you're in a developmental stage, things happen. I want to drink water that doesn't have any Legos. And so if the only water we had available to us were in that aquifer, then carbon filtration would be the correct first choice. It would. Because even if you have to add things to the end of the carbon, if you had no other option, then that is the first, and it'll get a lot of it out, right? But it's not our only option. And that's a problem for me, because we are giving these other Legos to every person who can't afford their own reverse osmosis system in their house. And every meal cooked at a school with the water from the public well will have these other shorter chain PFAS chemicals in them. And it's not like I did the lab work. It's not like this is my idea. This is peer-reviewed research from the same man that did the same labs that did our bench scale testing. Right? So we tracked Chris Higgins down in Exeter, New Hampshire. We cornered him with the data, like in a big chart, and we railed on him with questions. And
Okay,
said,
now
"Would you
who is
feed
Chris
this?"
Higgins for
He
those listeners who have no idea what
he
you're-
is the guy
what you're
at
talking
the
about?
Colorado School of Mines who took a sample of our water, CDM Smith sent it to him, and looked for all these other PFAS that are in the water, the same way that UMass can also do. And he is absolutely world recognized as the guy, right? He's the PFAS guy. He and his lab have looked at the carbon filtration and the ion exchange and all these other methods. And the fact is, if you have a choice at water that never had PFAS in it or water that did and cleaning it, the healthier choice is the water that never had it. And I cannot stop saying that. My dad's the head of the Medical Reserve Corps. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a nurse. My dad started the EMT classes at Westfield State. I'm in this place where if there is a public health worry, I can't keep my mouth shut. And I know that, I drive people crazy about it, but you can't give children PFAS in their water. Everything they drink, everything they eat all day, they brush their teeth, they shower, and then expect them to perform in school. We can't do that. And then you're going to put, the public education funding based on the test scores. This is unreal and it's unfair. And when the numbers come back from our blood tests and people start to understand exactly how big a deal this is, maybe some.
So maybe you could
changes
explain the blood testing for those people who aren't aware of that, and have any of those numbers come back yet?
Not yet. We probably won't see any until spring.
Okay.
But that Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, they are the only agency in the government that can do the blood testing. The CDC labs are the only agency. Massachusetts does not have a lab.
And explain the blood testing. Again, we have listeners who don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
So what is the blood testing? What were they testing for, and who is tested in the city?
So they selected randomly roughly 500. They sent out 1,000 letters, but you only get back so many.
Right.
So they selected just under 500. I want to say it was 460, 470 in the total. People answered. People on the north side of town, so in wards 1 and 6, and people who were on the public water supply, not private. So they, called us in and had us fill out a questionnaire about how much water we thought we drank and whether or not we were exposed sort of occupationally. Are you a firefighter? Do you work in plastics? Kind of a thing. And then, took some vials of blood, just like, any phlebotomist does. But they have to take it with special equipment because most of that stuff is covered in PFAS in a general hospital. So they have special, PFAS-free stuff.
So there were over 400 people.
There were.
Okay.
And they
So
asked for
that's a big sample
$3.95.
size.
Yeah, they asked for $3.95, so it was really great that Westfield residents came out. It really was. And they said that as long as people kept coming, they would take as many as they had appointments for.
Okay.
So they didn't cap it at the $3.95.
So they're testing for different levels.
11 or 12 different PFAS chemicals
Okay.
that are typically in AFFF and industrial sites, right?
Okay.
So these are all at DoD related places. There's one in California, Colorado, Alaska, right? And they've gone to these DoD-related contamination sites, and they've drawn blood. And some places we were the first, so they're going around to the others now.
Okay.
And they'll do them in the order they were received. We should start seeing numbers in early spring.
Okay.
And then when they have everybody's done, they're going to compare ours to the national average.
Okay.
And then come back and have like this big community meeting where they help explain it. And before then, I think they're having a meeting for medical providers so that our doctors will know what to say to us when we say, hey, I got these numbers back. What did you mean for me?
Okay, perfect. All right, you've got about 4 minutes, Kristen. And so in that time, it's your opportunity to kind of talk about why people should vote for you, why you're running, and whatever else you'd like to pass along to our listening audience.
Well, I'm running because I was asked to run. I don't know how well I'm running. I'm doing my best. I don't know much about politics. I know that there's a certain way that the methods in this town have always worked, and I'm not trying to change anybody's method or tell anyone they're doing a bad job. I think that people just believe that there's only so much you can do 3 minutes at a time from, our side of the podium. And I think that sometimes residents feel like they're not always being listened to. Sometimes when residents come to the podium at a city council or a planning board meeting, we've been called a parade before. There have been people who say, oh my God, when you step up to the podium, there are city councilors who rub the microphone, who rub their heads, who, put their heads on the desk. We don't want to be treated like that. And other residents don't want to be treated like that. They want to be taken seriously. They want to have sense. They want to have those laws enforced. They don't want to keep fighting for what is supposed to be a right. We're supposed to have clean water. We're guaranteed the right to clean water. It shouldn't be a fight. It shouldn't be an argument about whether or not this much chemical is okay. It's not okay.
Okay.
And so if residents want me to do that job from the chair at the table, then I am happy to serve them to do it, and I will do it to the best of my ability. And if they decide that somewhere else is the way they want to go, no hard feelings. I'll still be in Boston and DC and everywhere else doing exactly what I'm doing. But I hope that they choose to, put in some fresh eyes and some people who are interested in making sure that every resident knows what's going on and that every resident has a say. And, I want them to stop using us as an ATM. This water bond didn't have to come out of water ratepayers. It could have come out of other money that sometimes gets forgiven. It didn't have to come from us. Residents, it doesn't have to be like this. We can make other choices. And I am hoping that if people believe that perhaps they will elect me and have me sit there with other people, and maybe I can talk to them and show them these other choices, and maybe they will agree with me and we can move forward. But it's not, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm not enrolled in a party. I don't have a particular stance on a whole lot of things. I just want clean water and kids that are taken care of and roads that I can drive down. and
sure,
if people would like me to help advocate for them on that level, then I'm happy to do it.
And I'm just curious, what ward do you live in?
I'm in 6.
Oh, you are in 6. I was going to say, are you in one of the wards? You are in one of the
I was
wards.
one of those people doing that thing where you drink a gallon of water a day to detoxify your body.
Okay.
So all right.
That was a question of curiosity.
This is a personal thing. My a lot of my family has medical conditions that are related in other communities to PFAS exposure. So this is a personal thing for me.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. My guest this last 25 minutes has been Kristen Mello. Kristen is running for City Council at large. So Chris and I will tell you what I've told everyone else. Best of luck, and we will see what happens on November 5th. But we are encouraging people, please get out there and vote.
Oh, yes,
okay.
please.
Exercise your right to vote.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks so much. Up next is, I think Harry Rock is out there. Is that Harry?
Oh.
All right. I am signing off. It's 8 o'clock. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield Masses. Thanks for listening.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton,